Good afternoon, everyone. We're here to discuss the existentialist and post-existentialist tradition. So here are the members: Barcos, De La Cruz, Cabayron, Manyosa, Pera. So Manyosa will discuss general introduction, key ethical issues, existentialist and post-existentialist tradition introduction. And Bartos will discuss the value of the existentialist and post-existentialist tradition. Perez will discuss obligation of the existentialist and post-existentialist tradition. Gabayron will discuss the natural law of the existentialist and existentialist tradition. Gilbert Rose will discuss the virtue of the existentialist and post-existentialist tradition. So, before we discuss our topic, which is the existentialist and post-existentialist tradition, I would first like to give an overview about the basis of our topic, which is the book called um, Approaches to Morality. So, the main purpose of this book is to present principal ideas and issues in the area of ethics offered by philosophers from classical to contemporary times. This is the third book in a three-volume series devoted to basic subject matters of philosophy. The first two volumes deal respectively with the philosophy of man and ethics. In metaphysics, certain fundamental themes relevant to all aspects of the philosophical enterprise were discussed. These themes centered on the basic question of what is to be or exist, involved being where such realities as causality, change, and contingency, and the foundation of being was seen to be the existence of God. So, the philosophy of man volume treated such central issues for man as the question of his unity in being, his spiritual nature, his destiny, and the character of his knowledge. These two philosophical sciences are called speculative branches of philosophy because their main thrust is toward finding true and satisfactory answers to the question they raise. What is to be in metaphysics? And what is to be a man in philosophy of mind? Although the conclusions of speculative senses will have an indirect effect on the conduct of a man, they do not immediately set themselves to determine what they or what man should be. Ethics is the practical philosophical study that seeks to find some sort of order for those human actions for which we are really responsible and over which we have rational control. The philosophers presented this book have furnished explicit analysis of moral choices. In keeping with the plan of this series, this analysis reflects a pluralistic approach to morality. However, even with the differences that coexist, certain similarities appear in the key positions. Now, what are these key positions? They are the key ethical issues and I will be discussing them number one. So, the first key topic of this in ethics is the theory of value. Value is sometimes no.
Demography.
So value is sometimes defined as the object of human desire and striving. It is the basic and fundamental values that guide or motivate attitudes or actions and help us to determine what is important to us. The technical name for a theory of value is axiology. So the second is the obligation. Obligation is the claim made upon us by reason that some things are to be done and deserved praise, whereas other are to be avoided and deserved blame. It is clearly related to notions of responsibility and freedom. We are responsible for actions when we are ready to account for them to ourselves or to others. The technical name for the part that deals with obligation is called deontology. The third one is the natural law. The natural theory states that man himself is capable of setting up a standard of morality based on his nature. Human beings possess intrinsic values that govern their reasoning and behavior. Natural law maintains that rules of right and wrong are inherent in people and are not created by society or court judges. And final key topic in moral theory concerns virtue. The power for moral action that, that enables man to act with peace and order in some area of life. So, in order to see how these four topics are central concerns, we will look at them more closely in the context of our topic, which is the existentialist and post-existentialist tradition. So, if you've ever pondered the meaning of existence or questioned your purpose in life, have taken an existentialist so it would be quite hard to find someone who hasn't asked themselves the big question: what is the meaning of life? What is my purpose? Why do I exist? For thousands of years, these questions were happily answered by the belief your purpose in life was assigned prior to your creation. The existentialists, however, disagree. Existentialism was popularized by Jean-Paul Sartre in the mid-20th century following the horrific events of World War II. The existentialist movement asked, what if we exist first? At the time it was a revolutionary thought. You were created as a blank slate, tabula rasa, and it is up to you to discover your life's purpose of or meaning. Existentialism, unlike other fields of philosophy, does not treat the individual as a concept and values individual as subjectivity or objectivity. Existentialism emphasizes action, freedom, and decision as fundamental to human existence, and is fundamentally opposed to the rationalist tradition and positivism. Since the existentialists are by choice not systematic, it is at best difficult to relate their thought to the four basic notions: the value, obligation, natural law, and virtue. These topics are at least implicitly relevant to thought, and these topics will be discussed by my group.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angeline Barcos, and today I will be discussing value of existentialist and post-existentialist tradition. Existentialism value, unlike the naturalist, Aristotelian, and Thomist, the existentialist has no elaborate faith in reason as an exclusive guide or in systematic philosophy as a convenient roadmap to moral choice. The existentialists emphasize man's personal freedom. Man has no previously structured nature that enslaves him to a set range of fulfillments. He is deceived in his own life. He must make his life according to the freedom that is his. Existentialists emphasize the conventionality or groundlessness of values, their ideality, the fact that they emerge purely via human initiatives against backdrop of a meaningless and indifferent em- environment in a value theory. Next, please. The authentic man must commit himself. he cannot give his power or of choice away without, in a way, dehumanizing himself and becoming fraudulent or subhuman. The good life may be a lifetime or freedom and responsibility. The value of a person is his authenticity and commitment. The end in view for man is to form himself by the character of his choice. The focus of existential moral psychology is on the roots of mendacity, self-deception, and hypocrisy. hypocrisy. In moral consciousness, in this framework, the common existential themes of dread, nothingness, and the lud- ludicrous must be comprehended. Simultaneously, there is a strong desire to cultivate an authentic posture towards human universal values without no endeavor can succeed, a desire that is reflected in the terms of engagement and commitment.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jerica McCarran, and I am here to discuss about the obligation of the existentialist and existentialist. Next, please. So, existentialist obligation. The existentialists are especially concerned with the free character of human activities and the responsibility of the individual for his own life and actions, as well as for the effect of imposition on others. They emphasize that the very nature of man is freedom and self-obligation. Man is obligated to form and project himself into authentic existence by his moral action. So human moral obligations are known. The solution is that the essential obligations, which is also positive or negative, like to not unnecessarily harm others, to have respect and dignity, the inherent worth of each being. Next, please. Thus, Kierkegaard pointed out the loneliness and anguish that accompany decision making, and Sartre declared that man is condemned to be free. Morrison insists on our obligations to read the pressures against freedom become commoditized through the littling and dehumanizing qualities of contemporary technology. Next, please. Okay, good day everyone. So I am Rachel Malusagaber, and I am the one who report for the natural law of the existentialist and the positionalist tradition. Next, please. So for the natural law, so first we're going to define what is law. So for the word law, is a primarily an origination reason. So it's also it is a systematic reason and system are both are rejected as inadequate for the choices that the existentialists, especially Sartre and Kierkegaard, see as condemned to make. So he also acknowledged that there are moral principles and maxims, but they insist that there are all too often in conflict. So according to this, Sartre argues that God is characterized as a creator, so that every creation has intended purpose behind it, but it is determined our creator. Another thing is that for Sartre, humans simply exist and make objective decisions on how to live life regardless of the perpetuated universe of truths. Human are tossed into the void of creation with no meaning, no purpose, and no guidance. So also he said that the Sartre said that every individual can choose their own meaning of life and become responsible for managing their existence according to the meaning they give themselves. So another thing, not only Sartre argued about the natural law of the existentialist, but also San Thomas Aquinas argued about this, that he said that A natural law that God created the world for to natural laws predictable, good driven systems whereby life is sustained and everything will function smoothly. And as part of natural order, God made certain things that were good for his various creation. And according to for Kierkegaard, he said that revolves around the idea of individuals find meaning in their life through a leap of faith. So what is leap of faith? So this leap of faith it is one's person experience existential crisis. He would completely and without reservation commit himself to God. Even if it is second irrational to do so, what matters to him is also a concrete existence. Next, please. So they seek also to solve each moral problem in terms of the concrete situation in which the moral decision must be made. So at times even the most pertinent examination of the situation will offer no comfort or clear directive or choice. Another critical about this that he also said that according to him, I mean, to exist means to strive to consider alternatives to choose to decide and most of all to commit. Next. Okay. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I am Angelica de la Cruz, and we're in continuation. So the last key topic of essentialist and post-existentialist traditions is virtue. So according to Kierkegaard, he would rather be as individual rather than simply another zero one in the crowd. A key human excellence for the essentialist is authenticity or integrity. Next, please. Okay, according to Kierkegaard, rather than searching for the truth with a capital T, it is more important to find the kind of truths that are meaningful to the individual's life, and it is important to find the truth for me. Next, please. And a related virtue is that of responsibility. We are to be honest in facing choices in life as well as the consequence they bring about. All we are not keep ourselves and close our eyes to situations in which we are more morally involved. So thank you so much for listening.